If you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, who would you choose?
Well, I'd have dinner with Frida Kahlo, who we just talked about having both been to her house, which is really exciting. Yeah, I think Frida Kahlo is so amazing and fierce and courageous, and she produced amazing art out of her suffering. And I think there's such beauty and courage in that. So, and seeing her house and seeing her artwork and seeing how she lived, it's really inspiring. Sad, but inspiring as well.
I agree. Super, super fascinating to go there. I guess my answer is the Horrible Histories cast, because that was my favourite show in the world when I was younger. Still kind of is. And I just feel like it would be a really fun time. And yeah, it's not as inspiring as your answer, but it's...
It's honest and interesting.
Yeah, no, I think I would have a great time if I went there.
I think so too. If you lived long enough. You're off to a great start.
Hi, my name's Hannah. I'm 20 years old and I use she, her pronouns, and I am from the Yarra Ranges. Today I'll be interviewing Natalia. She wants to introduce herself.
Hi, thanks Hannah. I'm Natalia and I'm a Youth Development Officer at Yarra Ranges Council, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm excited to do queer conversations with you, Hannah.
Jumping straight into it. Were you alone when you came out, or did you have people supporting you alongside you?
Well, I'm in my early 30s and I only came out in August last year. Some of my friends knew that I was, at the time, I think, identifying as bisexual or queer, but I think now I'm most comfortable with queer, although I still don't know how I feel about. That's probably not the label I'm going to end up with. I think it's a process. I started dating my partner in August, and then about a week later I needed to tell everybody, and I wanted to tell my family, and I told one of my friends, Mim, who's this beautiful non-binary creature, and they were so excited and so supportive and just wanted to know all the details, and their excitement and joy was so uplifting and encouraging for me, and it made me so excited, and that gave me the courage to talk to my family about it and be open with my extended network. And when I went to my partner's house, she'd actually made this huge banner, like a rainbow banner. She's an artist, and it said, "I am gay, super gay." And she decorated her house in streamers, and she had Diana Ross playing "I'm Coming Out" as soon as I walked in the door. So it was like this party and this celebration, and I recorded that and I put it up on social media as like my coming out post. So I had some people supporting me, and that made the experience a really joyful one. And I'm really lucky to have had that, because I know that it's not a joyful one for a lot of people. I think it can be a bit scary or sad or traumatic for some people. But I was really lucky that for the most part it was a joyful and proud experience for me.
Do you think it would have been that exciting and joyful if you hadn't have had those people around you?
I think probably not. I think it's difficult because my parents I'd only ever been in relationships with men, and so my parents are really quite surprised, and it took them, I think, a little bit to process the information, and I think the excitement of my friends acted as a real buffer for me to be like, well, that's okay. They're getting used to that news. I have other friends that are really supportive, and it's not to say my parents weren't supportive, and they love my partner, but I think it would have been a different experience, and I don't think I would have had the same level of, I guess, buoyancy. I was really buoyed by my friends' reaction, because shout out to Mim. They said, "Oh, that's, you should tell this person and this person," all these mutual friends that we have that are queer as well. And I relate to that now, that sense of queer excitement when someone comes out. I'm just so excited for them because of what I know is ahead for them. I don't know if that answered your question.
Have you ever felt worried about your self-expression as somebody who's visibly queer, being seen as unprofessional or different in any way?
No, not where I work now at Yarra Ranges Council, because coming in I knew that my manager was lesbian, and it feels like a really supportive and inclusive team, and my sexuality was never a thing, and the organisation as a whole, I think, is really committed to diversity and gender equity, and we're doing a lot of work now in the gender equity space to ensure that what we do in local government is meeting that legislation, and we're doing it in a meaningful way. And I'm really, that's really heartening to me to work somewhere that's truly values led. And there's such fierce leadership that I see from my leaders in terms of ensuring that we are equitable and that we are supporting, supporting people of all genders to be themselves. And I see that really authentically. And so for me, that's really encouraging as a queer person, to do this work, to do something like this. I don't think that I would have had the permission to do this if I didn't feel that I could be openly queer and openly myself at work.
What does it mean for you to be open and out in your community as a queer identifying person?
I think it's a really, it's an amazing thing. It's a very freeing thing. And it's also different in different spaces. We all belong to different communities. And so in certain communities, I'm more open than in others, and I feel more comfortable to do that. And I think the things that help me to be more open are seeing other queer people in those spaces, and also seeing and feeling that queerness is celebrated and not just sort of tolerated. And so it's, that idea of, representation mattering, it matters. We hear that a lot, and I think sometimes we don't unpack what that means and why it matters. And for me, why it matters to me is because it gives me a sense of safety. It signals to me that there are others like me and that I will be accepted. And so that, it's really important. And so I guess that's part of why we're doing this today, right? Giving visibility to people in spaces, especially in local government. I think we have a real role to play to be visible, particularly for queer young people and queer young people in the outer ranges and people that look like me, to see others that look like them, and I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, fostering a community and making it a supportive environment for everybody.
Yeah, and I think we do that by showing people that they can be that thing that they aspire to be. Yeah.
Do you often find yourself as a role model or a support person to the young people that you work with, specifically the LGBT young people?
Well, when I was growing up, I didn't know any queer Asian women, and it wasn't until recently as an adult when I reflected on that I realized that. And I've been posting a lot of queer content on my social media, and I've been doing a lot of work in this space, and it's really exciting. And recently I had someone that I went to high school with, who was in a different year level, contact me and said, my niece just came out as bisexual, and do you know any supports or any resources for her? And she's young. And it was great, and I shared those resources, and it felt awesome because I have this sense of wanting to be the queer Asian auntie to Asian queer people, and in that moment it felt like it was happening. I was being seen as someone that people could turn to for support, and people could point to this, point to me as someone who is visibly queer and Asian, and that was something that was missing when I was growing up. So yeah, it's really nice that's happening, and it makes me really happy.
So that's a role that you're comfortable in, and it doesn't feel like it's been forced on you or anything?
No, definitely. It's something that I welcome, and if other queer Asian young people, are watching this, find me at Yarra Ranges Council, and I'm more than happy for you to reach out.
So on that, what advice would you give to a young person, or even your younger self, if you could?
I think whatever you're experiencing and going through now, it's okay. It's okay to be confused, and it's okay to not really know, or, you know, because I think finding yourself is a process, regardless of your gender identity or sexuality. I think your gender and sexuality add a layer to that. And I think it's probably something that we continue to do as queer people, to explore that. And yeah, I think be gentle on yourself. You know, with age comes perspective, and so you literally can't know the things that you will know in 10 years' time, right where you are. So I think just accepting that, yeah, I guess the main thing is that things will get better. Things will get better, and there are people out there that are like you and are on the same path as you, and it's just about finding them. And you can do that by reaching out, and you'll know. You listen to your gut. Listen to your gut, and you'll know who the safe people are, and you'll know who the people are who will celebrate you.
How do you cope with any anxiety around your sexuality, or just this idea that you might not be queer enough in some way?
That's such an interesting question, because prior to being in the relationship that I'm in now, I was in a relationship with a man for 6 years, and I'd known for a while that I was into women as well as men, but it didn't feel like I could identify as queer. It didn't feel like I could be in queer spaces, because I felt like I don't belong there, because I'm in a hetero presenting relationship. So it was a really interesting experience of no one in the queer community excluded me. It was my own sense of what it means to be queer, and I think there's this, the idea of bisexual erasure, and I think a lot of people who are bisexual experience this, and it sucks, because it gets in the way of discovering who you are, and I think it takes longer for you to actually find your space and find who you are and accept who you are, because of this idea of what bisexuality looks like, or what queerness looks like. And it's that idea, I think people sort of see sexuality and measure your sexuality based on the type of your relationship you're in, which isn't necessarily indicative of anything. But yeah, I think in terms of navigating the anxiety, it wasn't until I was in a same-sex relationship that I was able to process that experience and those feelings that came with that. And I think then having spaces now, queer spaces, and talking to other, queer people, bisexual people who have had similar experiences, I'm able to give voice and give words to that experience and understand it for myself. And so I guess the navigating of it was tricky. I don't really know how to describe that, or I don't have advice for how to navigate it. I can only say that this is what happened for me. I had that experience, and it wasn't until I had some distance from it and a new perspective that I could actually process it. And I suppose that's true for a lot of experiences. I think we need distance from things in order for us to really see and understand and process that experience.
Do you find that being queer in your workplace plays an active role in your work, or do you sort of prefer to keep it separate?
Well, in my role, I'm part of the Queer East Alliance, the Queer East Alliance, and so we're a network of organisations, a lot of local government organisations as well as health organisations in the East that are dedicated to improving the lives of queer people, particularly queer young people. And so I have that mandate, that permission to actually be active in the queer space. And I was able to attend Pride Cup last weekend and able to do this project. So I think that my queerness helps with my work, and I'm really grateful. I feel really lucky to be able to do this work. Not only have the permission to do it, but for my team and for my leaders to see the value in the work and to see that it is something that's important. And so, you know, this idea for Queer Conversations came about through a conversation at work, and now it's happening. So that's really exciting to me, and I don't know, but I'm not sure that a project like this would have happened in the way that it has if I wasn't queer. So I think that, you know, which is not to say that people who are not queer wouldn't do something like this, but I do think that my queerness has had a role in bringing something like this together. So I haven't felt the need or the pressure at all to keep it separate from my work. In fact, I see it as something that's welcomed, which is really lovely.
And do you feel it gives you a different perspective and a different ability to contribute to the stuff that you're doing as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we all bring our own, we all have come from different walks of life, and we all have the different things that we're passionate about, whether, you know, we have family or friends that belong to specific communities. We each, you know, everyone in my team is so passionate, and they bring perspectives that are informed by their passions, and they're strong advocates for the communities that they're involved in. And my being part of the queer community is no different, and I think I bring that perspective. And yeah, as I said earlier, that visibility is really important to me. So I think being able to signal to young people when I'm out in the community that there are queer folk in council, that's important to me. And I think it's an important message that we convey, that we do have diversity. And I think the extension of that is that you're welcome to.
So what's the best part of that, of being a visible queer person in your work in council?
Doing fun things like this. Yeah, I'm really having a lot of fun, and having the chance to come up with an idea like this and make it happen is awesome. And I'm really inspired by all the people I've met along the way, all the young people like you and everyone that's been involved in this project. And it's so inspiring to have such courageous people willing to tell their stories and be seen and heard, so that other young people can be seen and heard. So that's awesome to me.
Is there a message that you'd like to give to queer young people?
I guess on a similar note, it gets better. I think as you get older, certainly in my experience, as I've gotten older, I've come to understand myself more, and I think with that understanding comes more acceptance. And with that acceptance comes, I think a deepening of my ability to love myself and love others and be loved in the way that's most natural. Getting emotional. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and it takes time. So I guess my main message is it takes time and it'll get better. Can we cut?
Can I hug you?
Yeah.
So what makes you proud?
I'm just waiting to get emotional again, but I think I've got it. I'm really proud to be part of such a diverse, amazing community. I think that when you don't belong to the majority and you don't have examples of yourself in mainstream culture and mainstream media, there's a need to create ways of expressing and ways of being, so that, because we need to find our own voice. And I think that leads to so much amazing art and fashion and movies and music and ways of thinking and communities. And that's so beautiful, that there's so much creativity and acceptance and exploration and authenticity within our community, and all of that comes with such courage, the courage to actually express yourself and be wholly yourself when there's so much risk sometimes attached to doing so. And that's such an inspiring thing to me and such a beautiful thing. And I'm really proud to belong to a community that is so courageous and inspiring. And I'm grateful to the queer people who have come before us that have made this possible. And I think it was much harder for people, you know, in the past to be openly queer, and they've really paved the way for us to be open and to do things like this. So yeah, that's what makes me proud to belong to a community that is so joyful.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, or just? I'm grateful for this experience because it's scary, it's terrifying, but also really inspiring to do this. So thank you, and thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for putting it all together. I think it's such an amazing project.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Great.